Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me for the latest edition of Scooting Through History. Today I'm at St Leonard's Priory, Stamford, which was founded on top of the 7th century monastery from St Wilfrid, which unfortunately in 658 was destroyed by the Danes. I'm noticing a bit of a common theme here. Whilst little is known about the previous monastery and the history behind it uncertain, there is no doubt that the site is of significant historical interest. Behind me is the transitional west front and north arcade. Unfortunately, this is all that survives of the church. The abbey itself was far greater than what you see here today. It was once complete with a presbytery, transept and cloister, as you would expect. The building was passed to the Cecil family in 1552 after its dissolution in 1538, and was rented subsequently as farmland with the priory to become a barn. As the building went into ruin, the stone was used for construction elsewhere in Stamford. This fine piece of Norman structure is one of the few remaining pieces that Stamford has to offer, and although well kept, this was founded in 1082 by William de St Calais, which is the Bishop of Durham at the time, and William the Conqueror. Whilst there is some speculation, William the Conqueror and the monks of Durham have a solid track record of founding religious sites, and I find this likely to be the case here also. Stamford is home to some of the most serene views locally. Behind me is Vents Walk of Stamford Meadows, and from where I'm situated I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 churches in the vicinity, and beauty all around. There were a total of 14 medieval churches throughout Stamford's time. Sadly, only 5 remain today, but that's still a significant amount for one town. By Doomsday, it had a population of 2,500, and King Henry III in 1256 decided to give a charter to give certain rights to the people of Stamford. To receive a charter meant there were certain permissions not needed to be asked of the king, and allowed a town a certain amount of self-governance, allowing it to truly prosper. The charter granted by Lord Edward allowed them the right to elect a mayor. The recorded history of Stamford goes well over 1,000 years. It came to specific prominence between the 9th and 10th century when it became one of the 5 boroughs of Danelaw. The town was described as the King's Borough in the Domesday Book, and it's no doubt as to why. Its continentally acclaimed top-quality cloth produced at the time, and its pottery throughout the 9th to 13th century really put this place on the map, and I was intrigued to learn the first post-Roman glazed wares were produced right here in Stamford. To mark St Bryce's Day, Stamford would have a bull run. Unfortunately, in 1839, that was ceased by the RSPCA. After William the Conqueror's 1066 victory, the Normans built a traditional motte and bailey fortification next to the River Welland. The Domesday Book of the same year suggests there was 5 houses torn down to make room for the castle. When taking public transport in Stamford, it's easy not to realise the history you're standing on. As late as 1936, the castle motte was here until it was flattened to make room for the bus station. During construction, they found the circular foundations of what they believed to be the castle tower. The town of Stamford is absolutely riddled with history. It's so apparent when you're riding around that there's not a place you can look where there isn't something of interest. The architecture dating back so far, right up until the early 11th century, you just can't help but stop and have a look. We may not be able to go back and see Stamford in all of its former glory, but they've really left us a stunning example of what it used to be. Its wondrous buildings and cobbled streets are so lost in time that you can really feel the awe they must have felt throughout its construction. It's no wonder that the town has become a conservation area, and there's not a single doubt in my mind that it won't remain the pinnacle of English architectural beauty for years to come.